Southwest, Dr. Jackie Armani, the lead MSL for the Northeast, and Dr. Michael Petrick, the lead MSL from Canada. We're going to be collecting the questions during the session and present them to the doctors so they can answer them. We're also going to try to reserve time at the end of the session for questions as well. If for some reason we don't get to your question during the presentation, a member of the MSL team will reach out to you to address your questions. I'd like to introduce the surgeons for the sessions today. Dr. Mark Lobanoff is Director of Refractive Surgery at the North Suburban Eye Specialists in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Stephen Wexler has been performing refractive surgery since 1991. He's clinical professor of ophthalmology at Washington School of Medicine and works at TLC Laser Centers in 4 locations: St. Louis, Fargo, Bismarck, and Billings. So he's busy. Also, both are strong research partners for Alcon, having been involved in a number of investigator-initiated studies. It's my pleasure to introduce both Dr. Lobanoff and Dr. Wexler. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Breen, and thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. We hope you have been well and are safe and are you sort of evaluate how you were doing with Phorcides.
Well, I knew I wanted to have some other clinics test the software besides myself. But before I gave it to yourself and the other beta test users, I needed to make sure it was safe. I had run a number of patients through Phorcides. I felt confident with the tests and the results that I was getting. And I did a contralateral eye study where I took 30 patients, treated one eye with Wavefront Optimized, where I knew I would get a good result. The other eye was treated with Phorcides Plan Contura. And at 1 month, I looked at those results. And what I found is the vast majority of patients saw better uncorrected vision with the Phorcides Plan Contura, and they favored the quality of that eye more as well. So I felt that I had proven that it was at least equivalent to Wavefront Optimized, if not better. And that's when we began rolling it out to the beta test sites.
And did you ever compare it to TMR and manifest methods?
I did. Once we had enough cases, because as Contura was first rolled out, Alcon said treat off the manifest. So I had a large cohort of patients treated off manifest. I had another large group of patients from TMR that I had treated, and then I simply added in the Phorcides group. And as I compared the 3 groups, I found that the Phorcides Plan Contura had statistically significant better outcomes than the TMR and the manifest groups. And that's where I really felt we were ready to take this to the next step and look at a larger study.
So let me take a moment then and talk to all of you about this study. And I think it should be up on your screen now. This is a study that has been released online, but should be coming out in the Journal of Cataract and Refractive Surgery in the next month or 2. And what this is a non-randomized retrospective chart review. And if any of you have ever done a chart review, you know what's involved. It's a huge amount of work to go back, and I have got a lot of people to thank for helping me put in the work on this, especially Dr. Eric Polk there in St. Louis. But Dr. Stonecipher and Dr. Tuma and I and Dr. Lobanoff was sort of the lead author on this, gathered up our patients, and we went and looked at 317 eyes that had been calculated using the manifest system. Then we looked at 323 eyes that we used Phorcides to program the laser. And I'm going to click, and I should be able to go forward. Yep, there we go. So let's jump right to the postoperative results. And if you look at the graph on the right, you notice that everyone did pretty darn well. So in other words, Contura gives us really nice results. So over 94% in both groups had 20/20 or better, which is incredibly good. If you had told me 15 years ago that I'd be routinely getting 20/20 in 94% of my patients, I'd say, I'll take it. Right. But if you look at the far left at the 20/16 or better, definitely statistically significant majority of patients saw, or a higher percentage of patients saw 20/16 in the Phorcides group. So 62.5% versus 41.3%. So if you look at the patients with an uncorrected vision better than their preoperative best corrected vision, once again, there was a statistically significant improvement using Phorcides versus the manifest way of calculating out the system. That always blows me away when someone sees better uncorrected than they walked in and used to see with their glasses.
It's a great outcome.
And significantly more eyes in the analytic group also gained 1 line of best corrected vision. So that was the main results of this study. We had good results, but we definitely saw better outcomes when it comes to the better than 20/20 vision. Now, one of the things that I think it's really important to point out is that, remember, when using Contura, when we first started using the manifest system, it was hard to get candidates because, remember, the axis and the cylinder amount had to agree. Well, if you went back and looked at our 640 eyes, only 24% of those eyes would have met the FDA Contura study criteria. So this is much more real world data. This is data on patients that come, and if you can get a good scan, even if it doesn't match up perfectly, you feel comfortable using Phorcides to use Contura. So for me, that was the biggest clinical thing, is that just increased my confidence level, because as you know, if there was too big a discrepancy between the manifest and the measured, it's very easy to say, you know what, I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm going to just do wavefront optimize because I know I'm going to get a good result there.
Right.
So it's really been great for me. So Mark, any comments about this study which you were in charge of?
We were just very excited about it, to not only see excellent results, but to see better results than the FDA study, where the FDA had looked at just perfect corneas. We were looking at real life, patients who walk in through your front clinic door, not selected out, and to get those results better than the FDA was very promising. We do realize that a stronger study, this is encouraging. We're going to build upon this. We've begun a prospective study here in the United States, and we hope to be able to show you guys the prospective results in the future.
Yeah, and I think just from a clinician standpoint, just walking in and talking to these patients, you know, first of all, it's hard. Everyone loves their LASIK and everyone's happy, but you do seem to hear more of the comments, best I've ever seen, really great night vision. I just hear it more with these patients than I have for years past. So, you know, I'm happy to be part of that prospective study.